now let us go to the final panel of the day, which is the importance of customer data platform in the data age for BFSI. We already spoke about data lakes. I think you referred to data lakes. We'll talk about data lakes and CDP and data warehousing and stuff like that today. And technology is paramount, of course. But like I said, it's not only about what technology you deploy, but how you use it.
Indeed, if AI, ML, data analytics, and all the big IT stuff cannot stop a telemarketer from calling you once every day for the same product despite your refusal, then we're surely not using the right power of technology or using the power of technology the right way. And as we know, BFSI industry is closer to the consumer than any other industry in India. So here are our panelists for the final session of the day. Join me in welcoming Samir Nigam, CEO and founder PhonePe, Subhash Kelkar, Chief Information and Digital Officer, ICICI Securities, Sharad Saxena, Chief Technology Officer, Bank of Baroda.
We also have Kirti Patil, Joint President and Chief Technology Officer of Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance, and Ankit Utreja, the CTO and co-founder of WebEngage. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome to all of you. And let's straight go into the discussion today with without much ado. So, everybody has the technology. So my question is that what makes the difference between a good balanced strategy and perhaps a strategy which is not that good, which is all over the place? So I'll ask that question to Kirti and we'll take it around as we go ahead. Kirti, to you.
See, technology is a given, okay? Without technology today, really, you can't talk about any kind of customer service. And I was just listening into the earlier panel, and that was not a panel of technologists, but everybody touched on technology. Having said that, right, we are not a technology organization. None of us represent technology organizations here, perhaps other than WebEngage. So for us, it is not, I mean, we can't say our objective is to implement a technology. First, we need to identify what is the business problem that we are trying to solve, and then choose the right technology. Only then we will be able to give the customer what the customer wants, or the businesses what they want. So good marriage between technology and business is absolutely imperative. We do not measure the success of technology alone. If it has not delivered business results, then for us, it is a failure.
Right. And, yesterday, Kirti, you were also mentioning about, how for example, insurance company, there is a very transactional nature of the relationship with the customer, right? So how do you take that relationship from a transactional level to a more engaged level and yet not get too under the skin of your customer, right? So
not irritate the customer too much.
Yeah, so you see, I'll tell you the difference that between an insurance company and perhaps a bank. Typically, a life insurance customer would reach out to us maybe once a year. Typically, if he has chosen annual premium payments, even if it's monthly premium payments, they would go on an automated way. Whereas in a bank, the interactions are far more. Okay, maybe I don't know, maybe a couple of times a week at least. So for us, the first challenge is really the contactability. Because if the customer is not reaching out to us, and customers do change their mobile numbers, their email addresses, how do we ensure that we have the right kind of contact information with us? So therefore, what we do is that, and the other thing is that there are multiple stakeholders which reach out to the customer. There is the life insurer, there is the distributor, there is the agent. They also reach out to the customer, and they also may get hold of this information. So what we do is that we've built a platform where all this information that is collated from the customer, the contact information, is available in one place, so that even if an advisor has contacted a customer, got to know of the recent customer contact information, we use it when perhaps our contact center is contacting the customer. So that is the one thing that we do.
Okay.
You see, the other thing is that we really need to have a comprehensive customer data platform, and I think in the earlier panel also they did talk about it. And some of the challenges that one needs to overcome when one wants to build a good customer data platform is that, see, our applications have been built over a period of time. We carry our core policy admin system is really a legacy app, right? So we need to ensure that all the data is collated in one place. It is standardized. So it is very important to have a data dictionary so that we know what is the data that we are collating, and then we are able to mine it run some analytical tools on it, give intelligence to the business so that we don't call Alokesh 3 times a day if he has taken 3 policies from us. So that is where we say customer has to brought in the center of everything. So the customer data platform needs to look at it from a customer point of view, not an internal point of view or from a transaction point of view.
It has become my pet peeve, not only for policies that I've taken, but even for something that I've not taken. People are calling me, twice within 30 seconds of one call. So I'll come to Sameer on this. And Sameer, many congrats to you. PhonePe has been doing phenomenally well, and I have personally been a little surprised, but pleasantly so, I must say, at the progress that PhonePe has made in such a competitive market, right? The space you operate in is phenomenally competitive, and yet you have made good strides. How do you ensure? And that space is also becoming commoditized as we go on, right? It's almost like, yeah, I can go through Beam, I can go through PhonePe, I can go through Google Pay, I can go through whatever. As long as I can transfer the money, it doesn't really matter. So how do you create a brand value in that kind of a environment, and how do you use technology in the right way to reach your customers?
Thanks, Alokesh. I think there's two questions in there. One is how do we actually create brand value? Second is how do we build engagement? I'll answer the second first, because I think when we entered the payment space, one of the discussions we had to have with all our marketeers, all of our product managers, is you're not building Facebook or Instagram, you're not building a news channel, you're not building a daily hunt. Inherently making payments, if you're going to replace every payment that's done with cash by a digital payment, it's a utilitarian way of life change. You need to get in and get out of the customer's life as quickly as you can with the highest success rate you can. So don't pretend to be something else. I think the best way to think about this is when we build our products, we never want a customer to have to call us because they had an issue. We never want the customer to even be able to attempt a payment they can't make. And in fact, the secret sauce for us has been, and now I'm happy after all these years, NPCI is publishing the data, our success rate end to end is the highest in the industry and has been for several years. So while there is Bheem and there's Google Pay and there's an Amazon Pay and many others, in a commoditized market, just like in telecom, people know which network works well. In payments, people know when the payment success rate is going to be the highest. Your brand equity is going to be built the really hard way in an industry like ours. When you're throwing cash back at problems, you are masking those problems. So we don't give cash back. In fact, if you look at our customer feedback, the one thing that people ask us for is more cash back, and we, as a policy, we just don't do it. Because we realize that you will never know where you land with a customer in their lifestyle if you don't take cash out of the equation, right? I can't subsidize your brand equity, or rather your brand love for me. So I think you need to think about it differently depending on the context you're in. I think Kirti gave a great example. When we look at our insurance products today as a distributor, insurance is a matter of solicitation. You have to reach out. The best you can strive for is to reach out in a non-irritating way. But to assume that people will suddenly start buying life insurance, I don't know any human being who's ever woken up at 8 in the morning with a cup of tea and said, let me read the newspaper and buy life insurance. I want to meet such people, but I don't know them. So that category on merit is going to be more about proactive engagement as opposed to being passive in the background. I don't want you thinking about PhonePe as far as payments is concerned until you have a payment to make. That's not the job of a payments company. So you have to actually craft a customer strategy based on what you're trying to do. You should be out of par if you're a commodity utility. Nobody ever calls up their electricity provider or their gas provider until you're running out of gas or the electricity trips. That's a great engagement. If you never ever have called your electricity provider, they've done phenomenally well. That's the right way to think about it. And I think that's the way we think about it.
Mhm.
In terms of customer data platforms, I think we are a little fortunate because we are a digital only tech company. We have a live engagement digitally with all our customers today. And I think that helps. We have multiple communication touch points. Second, all inbound requests are coming through the chat as well. So you'd be surprised to know 80% of tickets on a PhonePe today initiate and terminate on the chatbot. It's a multilingual chatbot. 80%, and I'm talking millions of queries. We do 1 billion transactions, just payments, so you can imagine that is millions of queries. So I think again, using the data to actually build solutions so that no one realizes that you build those solutions and make the lives better is the way to go. If you start using data to annoy people saying, I know who you are, therefore I will spam the hell out of you, you've lost the plot already on day zero. There's too many options for everyone in every category. I think the world's changing, and I think smart brands are getting with it,
Mhm.
and understanding that we have too many signals coming our way. Push doesn't work all the time. You need to create pull the right way.
Right. From one of the youngest companies on the panel today, let me go to one of the oldest. My question is for Mr. Sharad Saxena. The third largest bank among PSBs, your customers are over 130 million, right? So with such a large pool of customers, how do you utilize, or how do you combine your technology weapons to ensure that you're engaging with your customers beyond just a transaction?
Thank you, Suchetana. And hearing Samir talk the way he was describing his company,
Yes.
it looks that I am coming from Indus Valley civilization.
A lot of us feel that way.
We are a 113-year-old bank,
Yes.
and we just amalgamated two banks which are over 80,
Yeah.
90 years plus. And that is where we stand. Having said that, I think I'll go down to very basics. So he's lucky to be heading the institution where inherently the data is collected in a digital form, and since it's collected in a digital form, it's very rich in nature. It's very in right formats and all. We have a lot of legacy, and to my mind, the first thing which should happen is that in a bank of our size and our vintage and institutions of this nature, people have to understand that putting a layer of whatever you may call it, a data lake or a customer data platform, is not going to solve the problem. You have to have inherent processes in place, inherent quality of data in place, and then look onto these things. And what I'm alluding to, let me tell you, you said that you started with a discussion on about one person getting multiple calls from the same institution. Now that basically gets down to the deduping of your customers within your own organization.
Correct.
We got an Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank into this Bank of Baroda. We had no wherewithal to dedupe them when we were bringing them in, because our primary purpose was to bring them in and be one bank. Even not going there, do we have that sort of deduplication within our organization? It is not, because the way we grew over decades, we grew as different in an organic manner into different businesses, and that is not there. So what I'm trying to come at is that institution like ours have to have a very hard job to do. Just putting a layer will not help. They have to get down to the basics, see the data quality. Data quality is paramount in such institutions, because data quality is pretty poor, both from the customer standpoint, transaction standpoint. There are various formats. There are enough and more data elements missing, and that is where we get into all these problems. Having said that, we are one of the pioneers in public sector banking environment, where we have gone in for a big data lake environment. We have gone in for CRM. But again, my emphasis to my business folks is that having these layers is not going to help unless you have fundamentals in place.
Absolutely. And in fact, I am actually personally very proud of all our PSBs, not Bank of Baroda, whether it is SBI or some of the other banks, who have actually surprised us by doing digital the right way, and having done a lot of digital stuff along the way. I've been like an SBI customer for God knows how long. You can make it out from my beard. But
no, but the challenge there, Alokesh, that perhaps is that for a bank which started out when in 1910 or 1908, right, for Bank of Baroda. So it's not only the fact that you are a vintage bank, but you have branches in every nook and cranny. To take all of them together towards towards the technology journey, I think is the challenge, perhaps.
Absolutely, and bringing them all together, and which is where the cloud technology also, I think, plays a important part. And so, Subhash, my question, to you, really also is around this whole area of how do we lift customer relationships using the right technology in the right way. We are talking about data lakes and things like that. But you also tell us, because as far as I know, banks have not taken their entire IT infrastructure on the cloud, right? There's still a split between cloud and on-prem, right? So what is the right kind of balance between split and on-prem? Because you see a lot of digital native companies, I don't know about PhonePe, maybe you're all entirely on cloud, and there will be others who are probably entirely on cloud.
You're saying
you're not on cloud at all.
No, so you're asking me, let me tell you, I mean, I don't have a great use case as of now to go to the cloud. And I'm being very candid about it. Why should I go to the cloud? I have my own data centers. I have my own installed infrastructure, compute, and everything available. I have my private cloud, which provides me enough and more agility. We are a heavily regulated industry. We have to be very circumspect of what we are trying to do, unlike many other players who are just in the fringe spaces. So not that we are averse to it. The point here is it has to make a good use case, and when you get into it, it's not just that you want to. It has to be seen as a strategic, directionally important decision. Because why I say this, just going to the cloud for an institution like our size is a humongous effort.
Exactly.
And should something go wrong, coming back is enormous. People don't think about that. And we have to think about business continuity. We have to think about the regulatory impact. All these are very important things. I mean,
absolutely,
going to the cloud and cloud enablement has become a cliche. But as technologists, keeping all the jazz aside, when we think about it, it should be a very well thought out decision on entry and exit plans.
Absolutely.
And what ROI do we get out of it?
Yeah, we'll quickly go to Mr. Nigam before we go to Mr. Kelkar.
Sorry, I want to actually do a big plus one on what Sharad said, because so I was actually saying that we don't have anything on the cloud. We actually don't. People might find this surprising. Again, if success rate is what you're solving for, whether it's banking or payments or any of these systems, you will have to handle spikes. You will have to handle scale. You will have to handle for localization. You need to handle DDoS attacks. This is people's money. This is people's data. People always ask us, even on our board today, our investors ask us, why aren't you on the cloud? Well, two problems. One, I cannot guarantee the end-to-end security of systems if I don't control the systems. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying. So then you get into phase two, which is the risk-based approach. If you're taking a risk-based approach, the regulator and you need to be on the same page. It's a regulated industry. So if I was not building PhonePe, if I was building Daily Hunt, I'd be on the cloud because there's a lot of content consumption. We use CDNs to deliver banners, but that's not the consumer application part of it. That's just ads, right? Very, very different. So I think it's important that, again, we take the industry context here. And I think the second thing is, and I love the way Sharad put it, when you think like a technologist, you don't buy into a fad. CEOs at banks and insurance companies and others, and I talk to many of them, I think have this like target on their head from the public markets or their board saying, are you talking about the cloud? Are you actually building big data lakes and whatever else? A technologist will tell you any day of the year, having harmonized clean data sets has nothing to do with being on the cloud or not. Getting really clean data updated across all your branches and whatnot is about building integrated end-to-end solutions. You're better off doing it in-house if you have the chops. I think the gap today is that if you see most technology startups and what are called fintechs, insurtechs, payment techs, they're led by technologists who are trying to understand the dynamics of the industry. Most institutions that are like large banks, insurers, and others are led by fundamentally sound bankers and insurers. That's why they don't bleed cash, we bleed cash. We are learning the business, they're learning the technology. So I think it's more a question of who ends up learning the other side of the world faster. That's where the world converges and the market will actually like consolidate.
It was a rather roundabout way to come to you, but yeah, your view on this and on the customer experience part.
Yeah, I will take both the things. So first, let me start with the cloud or not cloud. Okay, I'm open. We are open as ICICI Securities, and we know that both the things have their advantages and disadvantages. So we need to use it for our benefit. For example, cloud has the elasticity component in it. So if the load increases the next day of the budget, you would be able to, you will be better off if you are on cloud, to handle that extra load for just a day or 2 or 3 days. And thereafter, you just take out the things and you are only paying for the usage you are doing. Okay, the cloud has that flexibility, and especially for our kind of business where people come because of sentiments. They are selling based on sentiments. They are selling based on certain news. They are selling based on, or they're buying or selling, or they're doing transactions based on certain environmental factors. We tend to benefit from cloud. And as you would observe, our peers are mostly on cloud. It's so we are not averse to cloud. And the more important point for me, rather than going on cloud or not, I think I would agree with the PhonePe that your quality of data matters a lot. It is very important that you first get your house cleaned up in terms of a sleek end-to-end view of 360-degree view of the customer across multiple channels. Are your systems capable of doing that? First, you need to ask that question. And the difference between nudging and irritating a customer. Every time the customer is nudged, he needs to feel the value that, yes, I'm nudged and this is the reason, and you need to do some proactive thinking in terms of, nudging at the right times rather than nudging as usual. So if you see, there are apps which are giving thousands of messages every day. You start ignoring those after a time. And there are apps who give you messages like Cred. You look at the example of Cred. They don't give you too many messages. It's a very muted app, but you still love it. You still end up loving it. Customers should feel like, you are being contacted. So if I have a risk profile and I'm buying a share against that risk profile, am I getting warned about it? It is in my interest, right? What's in it for me? Is that question answered? So I think for me, more important priorities are, rather than cloud and other things, cleaning up that data and making the house in order in terms of being ready to leverage this data across various channels. And then maybe build, AI and ML programs to, go for suggestions, advice, robo-advice, rebalancing, whatnot. And basis the news that you get from different corners of the world, I think suggest some plans for investments, and these companies would benefit, that companies will benefit, have some thematic investment plans, and then go for the right customers. And there is a huge scope in a B2C space for us to play, and it's immensely important for me to get that data in order first. So that would be my answer.
Okay, I'll go to Ankit on the topic that we started out talking about, which is that how do you use technology to really lift your engagement with your customers?
No, a great discussion. I think some of the points touched by Sharad and Kirti in the beginning, right? How do you use technology? I think important is to understand what are the business goals and how is the organizational design looks like. Because organizationally, all these functions who are trying to achieve the business goals needs to be aligned with the solutions that are getting deployed in your So technological, I think, advancement or the adoption happens in all the organizations, whether these are new fintechs, the way Samir explained. They are all on-prem. It doesn't matter to them. They are able to take care of regulations. They are able to take care of the scalability as well. And when you talk about Sharad's setup, right, it's 110 years old. And when you talk about the technology adoption to increase the experience, to make the experience much better for customers, there are three different things that comes into picture. One is how your organization is designed. When you define the business processes, who are the owners? We are discussing about CDP, and we also touched base about data lakes, right? Both are the terms which are used and abused by people like cloud providers and sometimes by people like us. And there's always a confusion, whether I can solve this problem using a data lake or I can use this problem using a CDP. Do I need a CDP?
Stole my next question.
Yes.
So do I need a data lake for solving this problem? And now the answer varies a lot, because when you talk about data lake as a technology concept, it's just a black box so that end users in the organization don't need to worry about where their answer is coming for their queries. And the queries varies a lot, right? It could be very transactional in nature. If my agent is walking down the street and is meeting an end customer to just check about how the loan repayment is going to happen, he needs to have the entire information about that particular end user. What is his CIBIL score, and so on and so forth. But you can roll it up at the business level. You can roll it up at the organization level, at the branch level, the same information. And the need and need varies from use case to use case. And depending upon who the business owner is, what the business process looks like, and what the data, where the data resides, actually changes a lot many things. In that perspective, when you talk about data lake, it becomes a one-stop solution for everything because it holds everything. But can it answer all the queries? Can it power your real-time engagement? It may be answering 80% of your analytical queries. It may be replacing a warehouse kind of systems, but is it doing transactional? And on the other hand, when it comes to CDP-like platform, does it need to have access to all the systems? Like in the previous panel, they were discussing about how do you care about securities and all of that. Now, marketing needs may not be too deep. What is the depth of the marketing need? Do they need all the PDFs that have been uploaded by an end user for their own loan processing? They don't need probably the PDF details. But all these PDFs are uploaded and the documentation is uploaded in your own data lake for other business processes. So defining who the processors, where the data boundaries lie, and what is the right solution is one of the aspect of designing a solution. And second, obviously, is the time dimension. When we talk about data lake, or when we used to talk about warehousing, now data lake, and now CDP, we will keep on talking about new terms every 5 years or every decade, so on and so forth. But the time dimension is something which people are not able to crack it in a better way. You can see things from your eyes. These are the facts. These are the data. This is how it should be laid out, and we'll deploy a technology solution. On-prem, on-cloud, doesn't matter. But with time, things change. And technology to adopt those changes is very, very difficult. And that's where the second thing comes when you deploy solutions. And you need to design solutions with that perspective. And third is obviously the whole user space varies a lot. I think Sharad was explaining the merger of banks. How do you identify users? Beyond that, from the marketing solution itself, we take care of merging user base. So all these consumer apps, consumer businesses deal with the end consumer from the beginning of their journey. When they're anonymous, they're not revealed identity. They have not procured anything from the bank or the insurance company, and they have not probably signed up as well. From the beginning till the end, we do a good job of stitching the entire story. But then, other than the technology solution, there are real life problems as well. The guy who left his phone number in the mall when he was applying for a loan was phone number at that moment in time. It was only the phone number which was an identifier for that user. And the loan team in a big financial institution created a user out of it. And they have their own life cycle. But it turns out that the user is already a registered user for some other, business aspect in the same company. How do you make sure these merge together? And how do you provide the single experience? And that's where, some are real life problems that you need to take care of. Some are technology problems, some are business problems. You need to understand where the business problem is and what the technology solution needs to look like.
Yeah, there's a lot of, having accurate data is perhaps the most important thing, because I, and my team, because we are always interacting with leaders like yourself. We also have databases, right, of people like you, and we know that, what's Samir's email ID. We need to invite him for something. And tomorrow somebody decides to give up on PhonePe and start something else, and my database needs to be updated, right? After every 2 years, I know that 40% of my database is gone, right? There's nothing in it. It's going to bounce if I'm going to send a mail to everybody. And yeah, and it's really so difficult. And mine is a very simplistic case. It's just an Excel sheet, whereas the kind of data that you guys handle is like phenomenal. So obviously that is one of the challenges. But Kirti, is that the primary challenge, or there are other challenges also? We are talking about CDP, data lakes, data warehousing. People are still confused about, of course, data warehousing, I think, is on the way out in many cases, because it doesn't support unstructured data, right? Which is supported by CDPs and data lakes, is my understanding. I'm not a technology guy, but that's what I've heard. But has all these tech solutions, the idea of having a unified view through the CDP, or through using the data lake for various sources of data, has it helped us address the problem of silos, right? Where the guy sitting next to me will have the same data in a different Excel sheet, and I have the same data in a different Excel sheet, and we don't know that we have the same data, right? And we are reaching out to the same person maybe in different ways. So what really are the challenges that people like yourselves face in handling data?
Yeah, so just before I answer your question, a little bit about the cloud, and I completely concur with Sharad and Ankit that for us also, it's not that we are not on the cloud, but it is use case basis. Okay, so we are not averse to the cloud, like Sharad said, but it's not that we have a target internally or from the board that you need to move to the cloud. So if moving to the cloud makes sense, we'll go to the cloud. But like I said in the beginning, we have to solve a business problem. Now, coming to your question about data warehouse, data lake, CDP. And I don't know why everybody believes that structured data problems are solved, and it is only the unstructured data problems that we need to solve. I have a different view here, okay? And all of us on the panel spoke about the quality of data. And that is the quality of the structured data itself, right? Sharad touched upon not having data in an electronic format. That is a challenge that we also had, because we are also a 20-year-old company, and along with personal information and financial information, we also carry medical information, because medical history is of prime importance to us. And when we started operations, nobody thought of having medical records in an electronic format. It worked on physical records. And now we are using AI and ML in underwriting as well. And we realized if you don't have the history of Alokesh, his medical history, then it is very difficult for a machine to underwrite, right? So we actually embarked on a journey to digitize all those physical records. It was perhaps easier for us because we are not still a 100-year-old company, Sharad. But so my point is that there are still challenges around the structured data also, which all of us need to overcome. It could be digitizing the data, it could be quality of data, it could be standardizing data, because we all have perhaps multiple applications. And I'll just give a simple example, right?
Sure.
In some system, you may define the gender as MALE and FEMALE. In some, it could be M and F, right? So that standardization has to happen, okay? So those problems need to be overcome and are being overcome by us, and I'm sure by others, okay? Unstructured data, yes, that is something that one needs to look at if we really have to give that real-time personalized experience to our customers. But it may not be relevant for each and every use case. So wherever it is relevant, one needs to solve the problem. Now that is about and of course we need to have a data governance layer, okay? Because like Sharad mentioned, or somebody mentioned, I don't remember who, that today you have solved the data problem. Tomorrow, data would have changed. Do we have a good strong governance around it to ensure that the data the problem that we solve today, has it remained unsolved? Has it remained solved, or have we complicated our life? So data governance is another thing that we need to look at. But data by itself doesn't mean anything, right? I think Suchetana, you said customer 360, or somebody mentioned it. So we still need to build a view around it, right? A business user is doesn't matter whether you have a good customer data mart or you have good, beautiful, unstructured data. Yeah. Is the dashboard available? Is it baked into the business process? And therefore, I want to touch upon another element along with the data warehouse, data lake, and CDP, that is the CRM. And I think in the earlier panel, somebody did mention about the unified journeys. If you want to give omni-channel experience to the customer, having the data in one place is not going to be enough. Your journeys also need to be uniform. So maybe have one CRM which has these unified journeys, which talks to the single version of truth, and then only we will be able to give the same kind of experience to our customers.
Right, Kirti. I'll come to Mr. Kelkar. So we asked Kirti about her challenges. She's added on to those challenges. And so what do you think about your company and the data challenges that you have? Forget not only structured, unstructured, but how do you ensure that you are fully capitalizing on the data that you have to give a unified experience across channels?
Yeah, as journalists, we love challenges. We are very skeptical. We're trained to be skeptical. So we'll come with a challenges question to everybody.
I think it's a real challenge that you talked about. And some of our customers are more than 20 years with us. Okay, and they have grown, their financial position has changed, their disposable incomes have changed, their priorities in life have changed, their risk profiles have changed. So not only should we get a data about the customers, and barring few of the basic data elements like mobile and email, those are also changing every few years. Earlier you were using Yahoo account, now you use Gmail account, tomorrow you use some other account. But mobile phones, if you shift places as you would do over a period of 20 years, you would. So those challenges are simple to handle. My take is, but what is not simple to handle is the said unsaid data. Like you have been promoted, so your disposable income is much higher than you were when you joined ICICI Securities 20 years back. So how do I know that data? How do I get the data from the social media? How do I ensure that this customer is more social than physical? Some of these elements. And what we are observing is more and more India is coming online. So not only the millennials was the story. Now the Gen Z, they want to only deal with everything online. So I think for us, different customer segments, and it is easier for us to do the data updates on millennials and Gen Z, but it is very difficult for us to go to somebody who is about to retire or retiring and have plans to retire and get data from them. Some of them don't even have email IDs. So it is very difficult for us to communicate with them in the normal fashion. So those are some of the priorities and challenges that we face. The other aspect of data is like she was saying, Kirti was saying about unstructured data. The clickstream data is very important to us because how you interact with the platform is very important to us. So you were looking up one script 3 times last week, and now that script has a moment. Is there a way I can identify that and give you a proactive nudge that there is a moment in this, and would you be interested? So that kind of stuff. So we are trying to get not just the data right, but also the possibilities of how we can cross-sell, upsell, and make use of that data to increase the revenue or give a more improved customer satisfaction or do some cost optimization. One of these 3 things.
Right. Mr. Kelkar, when you're talking about millennials and Gen Z, Mr. Saxena is laughing to himself. He's dealt with his bank has dealt with customers since 1908, where till very recently, till even the 1990s, you have had set of data coming into you, which you never thought of storing it or putting it in an electronic form. So how do you deal with that challenge? Kirti, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to add on to what Subhash said. So we also have this challenge, right? That not all data elements are available with us. So we use proxy data. We see for us income is important. Income of an individual is important. Now, if we don't get that income, can we use some proxy for that? And that is how we enrich our database is the only point that I wanted to make.
Okay.
Mr. Saxena.
Yeah. So I think I'll not overbeat the point of data quality, and we have said much about it, and we are working. We have got a continuous engagement with all the business units, operation units for data quality. We have got a data quality index which we keep measuring week on week. We keep trying to find out data where would be available and so on. But now I'll go to the next aspect, and I'll touch upon something with Ankit and Kirti said. First, coming to Ankit. Ankit said that it is immaterial whether what is happening in a data lake for the end user. It should be a black box that nobody used, and the end user should be using it. I think my view is pretty different from this one. With the sort of data warehouse structure going away, some people still use it synonymously with the data lake and so on. But I think with data lake, we are getting onto a different level of engagement with our business users. Now, what we are doing is with data lake, we are very clearly defining the data elements which are coming into it. There is a lot of governance around it. There's data lineage built into it. And we are giving the tools and technologies in the hands of end users to be able to do what something techie in the data warehouse was doing, and there was a huge turnaround time for that. Having said that, this has now given a capability to do a lot of modeling. Now, again, I'm coming to two different types of models. If I have a model for, say, propensity of customer for buying another product, cross-sell or upsell. Now, this is a sort of benign model because I can validate it. Even if it is not a great model, anyway, I'll not be able to make much a cross-sell or upsell. But imagine I have a early warning system model for projecting whether a corporate is going to default and I need to take some action. Or I have a risk model for saying forecasting my CRR requirement. Now, what is very important now in this age is that my business folks understand, or for example, a lot of it is being talked about and many companies are doing, as we saw in the previous panel discussion, automated credit appraisal. It sounds very good, automated credit appraisal, but has that machine learning model, which is now saying yes to somebody or no to somebody, has got a bias built into it? How many people understand this in the organization? If a regulated entity, being a regulated entity, I get a question that I am giving to a certain section of society and depriving certain section of society in a manner which should not be there, who answers for this? So I think we are now, with all these tools and technology, we are getting into a very different phase where we have to carry, while it's a very different conflicting situation. While we give power to the end users to do whatever they want, they churn out data themselves, do basic analysis, not depending on the IT folks, they have to be very, very deeply involved in all these aspects which I alluded to. Customer service and all that is important. Yes, it is very important. But these are the fundamental things on which survival of an institution like ours depend. And that is where we keep emphasizing within our organization that, look here, don't just give your requirement and whatever a 25-year-old is churning out for you, believe that, and just go ahead and believe the output and take your decisions. You have to understand that. And that is our biggest challenge.
Come to the business intelligence question after Samir. So Samir, we were talking about data and from Bank of Baroda and ICICI and Kotak life insurance perspectives. Now, PhonePe is a digital native company, right? So can we safely say that you have actually leapfrogged all the legacy data problems that they have? What are the challenges then for you as an organization looking forward? Is accurate data something that you have successfully tackled?
I think accuracy is not as much of a problem, to be fair, partly because our relationship starts with a mobile number that's verified. So we took a call a while back that you can't create an account unless I verify your mobile number through your device as opposed to an OTP entry. Because one problem I have with OTPs is you can ask somebody the OTP and you can create an account on their behalf, and people have accounts they don't even know. That becomes a problem. Second, we don't allow email-based logins. I think it's not that email is dead. Email never happened for anyone whose first introduction to the internet era is post-Geo. All of us adopted smartphones after a laptop, after a work desktop, after some other device. For people, for 400 million people, the internet didn't exist until they started using their smartphones with data. And for that era, I mean, for that population, they use WhatsApp. It has a mobile number. They use a Flipkart. They use a Swiggy or Nola or any of these services. All their relationships, even with the YouTube or Google today, they're all with an email. I mean, with a mobile number. The other good news for this industry, for our sector, is thanks to the way the DBT program is structured. The Aadhaar number, the bank account, and the mobile number, that jam triangle is just brilliant. Because the one thing you're counting on is anyone who wants any kind of subsidy needs to have their mobile number updated both with the government and with their bank. And if you actually see the data, government introduced number portability before they actually introduced the program at scale. The genius of that model is that people don't change their mobile numbers as frequently as they change their phones now. Earlier, it used to be the other way around. So there's a silver lining in all of this madness is that your relationship with the customer is longer today because it's still led by the same mobile number, longer and longer than it used to be. I think so. Therefore, I think data relationship or identity relationship is not a problem. Problems for a company like ours, any mobile app today has two choices to make. Am I data greedy or am I data light? We actually find ourselves, and I was amused listening to my colleagues who are trying to get more data and crisper identities. I'm on a bit of a war footing internally, trying to actually pare away data, because what we are finding is, again, marketeers and then the core product team. Marketeers will always tell you they want all types of data. They never know how to use it. And my co-founder and I are, I look at the marketing and product side, but we're both engineers by background. And we often use this phrase internally: artificial intelligence is not a substitute for real stupidity, right? You can't claim to need 250, 300 attributes about a user's life and then manually actually target them. Those two don't happen concurrently. So I think someone very pertinently pointed out, either you move towards an automated state with machine learning, and that can happen only within the apps. So there's no need for data to leave the app or be in path of employees as well. So we are constantly trying to rationalize how much data we capture, because I do think capturing a lot of data will always expose you at some point or the other. Either somebody will do something stupid and betray the trust of the user, or they'll do something too invasive and they'll spook the user, right? Even the best recommendation with retargeting, again, I'll use a simple example. We've all heard of marketers who are retargeting. We've had this holy cow at PhonePe since we launched. We do not allow our marketing teams to share our consumers' data and do retargeting on YouTube, Facebook, anywhere else. We are an anomaly almost in the industry. People laugh when they hear this. I just don't think it ends well. Someday, someone's going to publish every other advertising partner's data on the dark web for 5 rupees a pop. I mean, how often do we hear about these leaks of like 200 million accounts, 300 million accounts being out there? Again, how precise are you going to get with your retargeting? You got to really think about that. And if you are going to do it, are you doing it in an encrypted SHA manner, or am I giving my entire database? When I look at partners who promise me retargeting solutions, the kind of data they ask for is ridiculous. If I'm retargeting you, or rather for you, I need your mobile number. That's your identity that carries across apps. Then why do I need your name and everything else about you? Then I don't. So I think that's the other thing we always grapple with. We also have advertising solutions on our platform. Our partners keep telling us, hey, this one's offering us better targeting, that one's offering us better targeting. We said, we are a payments company, we regulated on the margin, we will just not let you filter or target. It does limit the ad dollars coming our way, but I think it's the right answer. Again, I'm coming from a position of, I think we are going through an inflection point in the history of the internet. Where I think enough people understand that they're the product because they've been wanting everything for free. And now there's a lot of people who are saying, I don't come for free. Tell me what it will cost, at least as an option. Take YouTube Premium. 100 million people are paying to not watch annoying ads and or because they value their privacy. So we are also trying to figure out where do we land with this stuff. I think to take a data, how much do I have, how good is my quality, and how much am I able to secure it is limiting. I think you have to start at the strategy view of who do I want to be to my customer. The good thing with all these institutions, right? I mean, the Kotaks and the ICICIs and the Bank of Barodas, doesn't matter whether it was Tarpatra or his email or his mobile number, they are durable because what they offer at the core is just so precious.
Yep.
And I think that's where they should take relief, is the fact that people will always need a bank, they'll always need a like policy, they'll always need to buy securities. And so I think they have durability of a different kind.
Right.
Yeah.
That actually brings us to, I mean, you've brought us to to our next question, which is about business intelligence and how that can be used to create experiences for Gen Z or the next gen digital users. So my question is for Ankit: how effectively are financial institutions leveraging their business intelligence division?
I would like to answer this from a different view, because we are also a solution provider for financial institutes as well as other verticals, different verticals in the business. Now, what we try to do from our solution perspective is we try to augment their own business intelligence, whatever in-house systems they have. And by virtue of these augmentation, what we are trying to solve from the customer experience perspective is what is the right segment that should be nudged? If they needs to be nudged, what is the context? And this happens in an automatic manner. As Sharad was explaining, there are a lot of modeling that happens on the data lake, right? The augmentation of that modeling, the application of that model data then works on marketing as well as on the CDP platform. The users are segmented automatically at times for certain businesses based on how they are making a purchase, how recent they have made a purchase, how frequent they are making a purchase, and what is the total worth of making a purchase. And based on these modelings, we do an auto segmentation, predictive segmentation, so that the right kind of messaging can go to the right set of users. Along with that, there are many knobs and controls that we tend to provide, right? If the user has already opted out, then the user has opted out, no matter what, whether he has opted out from a channel or whether he has opted out because of GDPR regulation, because we serve to customers across outside India as well. And second comes, what is the right time to send something? If a message needs to be sent out, it needs to be very cohesive. And that's where the orchestration engine that we provide as a solution comes into picture. Don't nudge them. Don't send them an SMS. Don't send them an email. Just see whether they are on the app, in the website, relay the message. If your message is good enough, then you can use it another channels. But it comes along with all the frequency, capping and DND controls in picture. Whether the user, which time zone the user belongs to, when do you want to send a message? Is it a transactional message or promotional message? And how many times have you nudged in the last 1 week? If there are 4 messages that have already gone to a user, why do you need to send a 5th message if the user is not responding to you? It doesn't make sense. So on and so forth, where all these BI capability comes into picture. How the financial institutions are using these days, they are using it in a lot better way, because integrations are now becoming feasible with CDP-like systems, and people are able to achieve these use cases at least.
Right, and I'm so loving this discussion. I can easily go on for another 2 hours with you all. Such deep thoughts from every one of you. It's phenomenal. Unfortunately, we are already 5 minutes over our scheduled time, and you're all very busy people. I don't want to, take up more of your time. So it's been a phenomenal day, and I will invite my colleague Suchetana to quickly summarize the key learnings from today, and then I will invite Priyam Jha from WebEngage to deliver.
Sure. What can I say about a panel that has been this phenomenal? Really, it was great listening to you. We actually have more than 45 questions that have come in, and a large chunk of it is from people who wanted to ask you questions. Because of paucity of time, we couldn't take those questions. We began with the topic of the importance of data platforms for the BFSI, and we learned there were some challenges we knew about, but we learned about more challenges and also what you're doing to fight those challenges, and what looks like a simple thing to us when we look at an app whether it's a life insurance company, a bank, or a security that we need to buy, but the kind of planning that goes behind it and the kind of data mining that goes behind it is some of the key takeaways from this panel today. Important things to remember, as all of you pointed out, that every decision has to be a decision that has been prompted from a customer demand, perhaps, or a business demand, and should not be a demand from a certain trend that is globally prevalent or prevalent in India at any point. So thank you so much for being such a lovely panel today. Thank you for taking the time out. Hope we'll be interacting soon again sometime in future.